Well, welcome to our latest edition of our virtual town hall update on St. Michael Catholic Church Building Project. I'm Dave Ferry, Parish Administrator, and thankful to have with me today Dean Beeninga, who is president of our architectural firm, ATS&R. Dean has been working with us for a little over 2 years now. Started with us on master planning our entire campus a couple of years ago, and that's now reached a point where we're beginning to design the first phase of our building project. So it's an exciting time for us, and he is as familiar as anybody with our mission here, what our goals are, and what we're trying to accomplish with our building project. So it'd be a great opportunity for you to hear from him what we're designing and why we're designing what we are. You might recall a couple of months ago we did a fly-through of our design. At the time was kind of preliminary. We're now moving into more detailed design on the interior, but I want to start by taking everyone kind of a top-down view of our campus and what we're doing with our building project. What you'll see here is the current church in white, with the shaded areas being the new additions that are going to come as part of our building project. Starting with an expansion of our kitchen off to the north side, adjacent to our new Unity Hall, which will be adjacent to a gymnasium on the top floor. And then we'll take a look a little later on at the space beneath the gym and the Unity Hall. A couple other features I'll point out before we start the video. We are going to pick up some additional parking space in the back, and this will be our new entry to the building for our offices, and ultimately will be the entryway for our school offices when the school moves over. In addition to that, you'll note that this is our current storm pond in the back. It was built when the church was built. That is going to need to be expanded for this project. And Dean, maybe you could talk a little bit about how we arrive at that decision and what determines how big that storm basin needs to be.
Well, thank you for having me into your homes, into your town hall. The essence of the project for me is to increase the social welcoming of the church, and by putting the Unity Hall along the driveway, along the entry on the east side, we really like the flow of the mass to the narthex, to the Unity Hall, to the parking lot. By placing the Unity Hall on the east side, we really felt it opened its arms up to the community. You'll notice there's windows on the front and windows on the back of the Unity Hall, and we'll go through and show you how we tried to, it's such a beautiful part of the country, a beautiful property, and we really tried to bring that beauty and openness to this Unity Hall that many will spend a lot of time in. So the concept is that this was a journey, a journey from Mass to the narthex for social connections, and then to the Unity Hall for maybe that deeper social connection, or maybe that meeting with one of the groups, the many groups that serve the parish so well. A very welcoming place to be. What I love about windows is, first of all, it brings in the beautiful natural light. We all cherish our sunshine, especially now in the spring. But at night, it also announces that the church is alive, the church is open. There's fellowship, there's life, there's vibrance here at St. Michael Catholic Church. So to get back to the storm pond, that is a natural progression that is needed when you add hard surface to a piece of property. Because of the 1960s, when they filled in all the swamps with strip malls and airports, there's now a vast control of water in our world. And so you need to hold that water on your site. And when you built your building 20 years ago, the restrictions were even less. They get to be more and more. The agencies, the DNR, the watershed, Army Corps of Engineers, they all are interested in holding the water on properties. You'll see that in housing developments all over, so that it doesn't leave the site at any different rate than before you started. So our roofs are considered hard surface, and the new 23 parking space in the back.
So a couple more questions for you, Dean, while we got this front view here. I think people who've been watching have known that we're going to have a Unity Hall here and a gymnasium here. Maybe talk a little bit about the design of the exterior of those two additions to the church and how we arrived at the design we've got now.
Well, you have a Byzantine flavored existing church, beautiful church, very almost inwardly focused, where there's not a lot of windows on your existing church. So we wanted to bring the strength of the arch that follows your clear story, your domed upper area with the literal archway. It's pretty hard to break an arch architecturally when you have a pure Renaissance arch like this. You start pointing it, it becomes an Eastern arch. There's a lot of dialogue. So we felt that the very simple arch was a way to communicate with the existing building when you're looking upon it. Same at the bell tower, that simple statement of the arch. You can overdo it, and so we were trying to be very careful to keep it simple. You can see we're using the same lighter colored brick as on the existing church, and we're using the same hue of the darker colored brick. And as you wrap around, we'll get there later, we are introducing a little darker color. So we're trying to be very quiet, very respectful of the existing campus to make this, again, an extension. So are we doing a modern rendition? Are we doing a traditional rendition? I don't really like to think that way as much as we're trying to respect the context. We want it to look fresh and new. We don't want it to look older and beaten from, but proportion is important. So when you have a space, the Unity Hall holds 350 people, and that's a certain size that needs a certain height, okay? So you can start to feel that proportion. It's about a 26-foot outside height, 20, 22 on the inside. And so you feel good in that space. It's not, we've all been in spaces that are too low, and we've been in spaces that really feel like, Hagia Sophia, holy buckets. So same with the gym. There's certain requirements to make it a gym-ready space. We all played basketball or volleyball in those old church gyms that you hit the ceiling when it's halftime, So we have it so that the community can play basketball, they can play volleyball, you can use it as a multi-purpose, but you can see that mass is a little taller to get I think we have 24 feet to the bottom of the structure, so that it's really built, for the volleyball and basketball, but it is still a comfortable space.
Terrific. One more quick question before we move ahead. The bell tower has been a point of interest for a lot of people for a long time. We're excited to finally be able to add that dimension. In some prior renderings, the bell tower is shown over the entryway of the church or alongside of the entryway to the church. Can you talk a little bit about the decision to put the bell tower where it is now and how you arrived at that?
Yeah, the bell tower was one of the most exciting exercises, trying to show the committee different designs. We really did have fun with it. But there were challenges. We tried placing it near the Unity Hall entrance. You probably remember early. There was a concern that the power of the bell
Over
tower.
here?
Yeah, at that entry we had it literally on that right, And people felt it should be the power of the church entry is where the bell tower went. So we tried different placements at the entry, off to the entry, and it seemed to dominate and block and become somewhat of an obstacle. There's also a tremendous cost in the footings and foundations. So the building committee has been fabulous to work with. Whoever picked all those people were very smart. But but by placing it here, we reduce some costs of some footings. We can balance the loads and bring them from. It's going to sit on beams that are carry over to walls that already have footings. We feel it kind of stays out of the way for the entry. It doesn't block the Unity Hall. It doesn't block the entry, but it creates a silhouette kind of in between the Unity Hall and the church, so that you can see it from the north residence. You can see it from the south on Frankfurt. So we positioned it, you have a couple angles here. The reason for the angle of the Unity Hall is to embrace that parking. To come up to the parking, you'll notice on your existing site you have about a 15-foot, some
Drop.
call it a walkout, natural hill. So that's what we're doing. We're lodging this right on the hill at the logical point so that the lower level does have a natural walkout to that lower level. And up here we can come in here. And if you look at the master plan too, this is where this angle helps continue the future needs that the committee identified for this piece of property, because it's very smart to pre-plan where you're going to put things. So I think the heights, the balance, your existing building is up and down. This goes up and down, in and out. Push the windows back a little more, give a little more shadow, break the windows up.
I know one of the other things we talked about too was doing something to prevent the headlights from swinging in and shining in the Unity Hall, and so you've added these windows here with a little bit of a protection from that.
Yep, we have some options. We have some opaque glass there where we're going to put some fritter in it or make it solid, or there's different options you can do. Also, by putting some plantings there will help. That driveway is about 3 feet down actually from those windows, the bottom of those windows. So we're going to have some natural break anyhow.
So the other thing I'll point out here is that there will be a separate entry to the Unity Hall and the gym. So when it's needed for entry or exit, rather than going all the way through to the main doors, there'll be ability to come in or leave through these doors. And we're into some detailed study on electronic security here, which will probably carry over to our existing doors. But so people who have an event going on in the gym or in the Unity Hall will be able to use this access point as well.
So we wanted it very open. We wanted everybody to know who's home, and if somebody's waiting for a ride, they're in there and they can see their mom or dad out in front, and they pop out one of those doors, and it's just a real nice progression. The addition aligns with the drop-off quite well, so you can get a good stack of cars.
So here's an overhead view of the facilities, and I want to point out a couple things. This is not final furnishings yet, but one of the things that we asked Dean and his team to do was to introduce some different furniture options that we might consider. Prior renderings that you've seen have been set up banquet style, where it's all tables and chairs, which is something we would be able to do for wedding reception or a funeral luncheon or another large gala where a lot of people need to be seated for dinner. But the more common configuration is going to introduce some more casual furniture, and we'll talk about that as we fly into the Unity Hall. But from the top here, you can see the kitchen addition again here. This area will be an extension of the Unity Hall for the time being, but eventually will be another expansion of the kitchen when the school comes on board to allow for serving the students for the school. But for the time being,
And that area will be the serving area, so it really, we won't have to rebuild anything. All of the equipment and food storage will be in that initial, kind of those two zones you're circling there, and that serving area. And you may have a big banquet where you need that to be, the same type of serving, so.
The other thing from this angle you can see is you get a feel for how it all fits together and how the flow is set up. We'll see this again when we fly through, but the access point from the current gathering space into the Unity Hall, and then just the gym adjacent to the Unity Hall.
Yeah, if I could talk a minute about the opportunities with furniture. You go to the airport these days and it doesn't look like the airport from before. You go into a coffee shop, you have an option of reading the newspaper in a soft seat, meeting with your friends on a 4-person table, or a bigger gathering. And so that's what we're seeing Unity Halls do, is take advantage of everyone's different. You go to a food court and some might sit in a booth, some might sit at a high top table. So the opportunities for groups of 8 people to go and to sit in the sunlight in the corner that they like, on some nice soft seating with tables, and they communicate, they meet, they talk. You don't have to sit in a conference room, and if groups really find that is very appealing. Some high top tables, your normal tables. So like you said, it's not finalized, you haven't purchased your furniture yet, but that's what we're seeing as being very desirable for the vast differences of groups meeting, personal desires, and there's little tables for coffee right there if you want to sit with your friend and have a cup of coffee.
Well, and it kind of fits with Father's vision as he described it, this being our family room. It needs to be a comfortable place for people to go. And also one of our first principles as we were looking at new space was space that would be flexible, that could be used for multiple things. And so our goal with the furniture is going to be to select furniture that we can use for different functions or move in and out at a reasonable level. Of course, we can't turn everything over, but a mix of furniture that suits different needs at different times. Let's move on here. Zoom back out. So right here I want to stop it real quick just to point out one thing. For those who've been paying close attention, in prior designs we had, I guess what's called a clear story. It's a I don't know if it's
similar to your dome, the upper windows in your dome.
And we had formats where it was a dome and others where it was just a rectangle, but the idea was to create a way to bring in more natural light in the middle of the Unity Hall, and that's now been eliminated. After careful consideration, as nice as it would be to have that, it's an expensive option for us, and so it was a way for us to keep our cost within budget and save our powder for some other things that we want to make sure we get done. So you'll see it in the inside as well when we get to the inside of the Unity Hall, but from the outside you can see that it's been removed.
And we do feel there's enough natural light coming in from the front and back.
I'm going to back up here and just have you talk a little bit about this space 2D. And this is on the end of the gymnasium. I think there's a practical reason that it's there, but there's also a reason it's there to meet some requirements. If you could just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's been a new code introduced in the last year dealing with educational protection during a tornado or some event. They call it the storm shelter, and basically there's a need, because you're building 3 pre-K rooms, we need to provide so many square foot per student in a storm shelter sense. So the thickness of the walls, the thickness of the roof, the types of doors, all the high resistance to weather and wind. And so through careful study, we found that it could be incorporated into the side of this building. It can also hold the stairs that get up from the lower level to the Unity Hall and gym. And so it's just part of our world now, which is really kind of nice to protect the children. They were protected before, but now they're really
More than
making
ever.
sure that they're protected. So
So as we fly around the back here, back this up just a hair again. You can see the from the back side, I'll just point out a couple things and anything you want to add, Dean. But here would be the new north entryway to our parish offices. The current office entryway is over here, and will also serve as the entryway to the school when it moves over. In addition, on the lower level from the outside, we'll pick up a couple of additional offices, but one of the primary goals was to add meeting space and quality meeting space for all the different faith formation groups, ministries, and other people that are really finding it difficult to meet at our church right now. And we'll get a closer look at this later, but those meeting rooms, some of those meeting rooms will be here. And then over here would be the pre-K rooms that we're picking up with direct access to their playground outside here. And moving on around, you'll be able to see our current parish office entryway, which will still be an access point, but will no longer be the office entryway.
see the arches on your clear story at the dome. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So now as we move into there's our current gathering space, and I want to stop here and have you talk a little bit about the connection of our current space to the new Unity Hall and some of the modifications that will be made to make that happen.
Well, it's part of the journey again, the journey from Mass to the narthex to the Unity Hall. We really tried to bring that connection and open it up as much as feasibly possible without, there were other options that added some space to the existing vestibule that we felt wasn't really money going towards the mission. We got the opening carved out, which relates to then the current hallway that says restrooms over there.
So the current wall that you go, the hallway you go down to the restrooms, currently there's a wall right here that's coming
yeah,
out.
we're pulling that wall back. We have to enhance the structure in that roof and ceiling anyhow, because the roof is the new addition is taller, and so there's a snow load by code. So we have to rework some of that area. So we're studying that now, but we pushed that wall back. You can see the vestibule has been cut back, where that window on the end is where the door is now. So we'll take that and make that a window, and where that little room is will become part of that walkway. So again, opening it up, cleaning it up, making it, the committee was really interested in being able to separate the Unity Hall from the narthex if there were multiple events.
Got the doorways.
So we got the doors, also, to try to zone the church off to make sure people aren't wandering around when you don't want them wandering around, because there's limited staff to walk this many square feet. So
Right.
try to make a very simple, open entry that could be controlled, that then explodes open to this natural sunlight. Your corner coffee bar, you probably want to talk about that.
Well, that might be a familiar name to some people around here, and it wasn't totally unintentional, but we did want to have a space that kind of welcomed people into the Unity Hall, served as an access point or a welcoming point when there are events going on, but also a place on weekends where people can migrate from Mass into the Unity Hall and be able to grab a cup of coffee and a donut here. And even during the week, I think our intent is to have this be a space that's available all week long for people to come in, and if coffee's on, they can come in here and have their meetings. And
It's a watering hole. It's where you go meet people.
Correct.
Like,
Correct.
somebody's always going to be home there.
Correct.
And
So-
you wanted that when you came into the church,
Right.
because the offices were downstairs. You said when the conceptual part was happening, we've got to create something where when somebody comes in upstairs, there's somebody home.
Right.
So you can see right in over to that vestibule.
So this will be a functional space. You can see there'll be plumbing back here, and so it really is. I
It's
think
a GL 3000 coffee maker there too.
I don't know if we can afford that, so we might have to look at something more normal. All right.
I gotta tease him,
Sure. So
Yeah, so we just tried to create an architecture again that was warm. It was clean. We let the natural light do the work. We create some material that brings the warmth out, so we're exploring the wood. We create a proportion where you can, there was said that you have some existing art that you may want to bring from the existing church, or you may want some new art. So how can we, fabric and art are really the best way to start to get true depth and texture into a space. So, and that can change over time. We don't really like to do something that's just stagnant its whole life, because you may have a different series, or there may be a series of paintings or
I should make that point here. Is these particular pictures aren't necessarily going to be the pictures, but they're nice examples of things we can bring into the space to make it beautiful. This is a good view to point out the removal of that clear story, that daylight window above the Unity Hall too. Originally we had that here. There was a rendering of the Last Supper as a possible mural that we could put there, but again, with the removal of that clear story, that will not be part of the Unity Hall. The other thing that you may have noticed from prior renderings is there were some apses here for statuary that we've removed. And the reason for that is we felt like it was more than we needed. It was going to be expensive to build and populate with statues when we've got plenty of room here for art that we can use, to beautify this space. So,
and that's an important part of design too, is to communicate as a group, to say, that's a little too much, or that's not enough, because you're trying, as a committee designing this, you're trying to really think about what everyone in the community, what's important to them, how far to go, how to be wise with your money, but then be wise with what you end up with. Right. So
this is also good, as we fly around, we'll see more of it, but a good view of some of the casual furniture, the type of furniture we might put at the ends of the Unity Hall.
You're always going to be sitting there when I come visit you.
I'll be downstairs working.
Yeah, I'm working.
So one of the things that I wanted to mention too, and I think in our last video, there was a lot of this photography used. We've talked about wanting to feature our heritage in the Unity Hall, and we're going to. These are just sample pictures that Dean has taken and blown up to put here, really as a placeholder for where we think we're going to feature the history of our church in some form. And there's some other folks we might invite into that process to help identify pictures that help do that for us. But I'll call it Heritage Wall for now, a place where people can come in and see the history of the church at St. Michael.
And that could change over time too. It's
Sure.
just, again, it's nice. We've done this on other projects, and it's been so successful because there's usually, in an institution, a community like this, there's so much history.
Right.
And so many people gave so much to make St. Michael special, and to honor a bit of that. And when someone sees their picture up there, so it's
it should be a fun project to work on.
It is fun.
I think the thinking too is this may be where we feature the name of the hall once we put a name on it. There's been some ideas kicked around in that, but nothing's finalized. And in prior renderings, we've had some scripture here, but we're going to keep this as a blank canvas for now. I think the intent ultimately will be to, put something here, but until we know what that is, we're going to leave that as a blank canvas.
And the colors too. Don't get hung up on the colors. We are still exploring what colors, and that will come a little later. But we're just showing a little tone on tone. You know, the wood obviously has a texture and a color, but you know, it might not be exactly that. That's a little further down the process. We're trying to communicate to you, to your community, about how the volume is treating and how the details are starting to come. So we are it is not the end of the process, but
Right.
during the process.
So you see here the screen pop down. The intent will be to have a motorized screen here that we can use for big presentations or even featuring pictures at a wedding reception or a funeral luncheon. But normal configuration would be to have that up and just use it when needed. So I'll stop here real quick. This is that niche that will ultimately be part of the serving kitchen, but for now is kind of part of the Unity Hall. There's a serving window here, similar to what we have in the gathering space. Dish return, same thing, so a very functional space to use when we're serving.
Sunny day on Model Street.
Yeah, let's start to, this is from the north end of the Unity Hall. Same idea here. You can see the different furniture.
See,
that's
the
been
doors are
introduced.
open, the
Yeah.
doors are closed.
Yeah.
So that was another goal, was to, how do you make two spaces or one space without, you know, movable walls are very expensive and really hard to use and transmit a lot of sound. And so we're putting doors in that do have sound seals and a good sound rating, and they're controlled. They're both 4 foot wide each, and we think that'll be a good solution so that when you do have an event, it really flows together, and you can turn this 350 seater to a 600 seater in a dance floor.
As long as you mentioned sound, you want to talk just a little bit about the ceiling here. I think we're planning to put acoustical tiles in there that will help keep kind of a controlled sound environment.
Well, for all of you who have sang in the shower and it echoes, we don't want that. So we put acoustical tile that we have in this room here, and many spaces. It's a mineral tile, and it absorbs sound very well. It does a lot of work, and so when you can see most of the walls are hard surface. There most likely will be carpet on the ground, but that only takes care of a certain level of the acoustics when you get a lot of people in here. So that those lines on there are meant to show kind of a linear designed acoustical tile ceiling that will be a step dressed up, you know, from the standard office, but it will do a lot of work. And then, you know, the coves on the top bring a little detail, but very, very simple.
Flying around here, we're going to look at the doors opening up to the gym, and
So that you can see every other one opens and folds. The two on the left fold, then the next two fold in the gym. So we're only using that 4 foot column to hide 8 foot of doors, 8 foot of width. So we'll probably patent that someday.
yeah. So I'm going to fly through the gym. Can you talk a little bit about the dimensions of the gym? You mentioned it earlier, the height of the ceiling, but this is going to be a regulation middle school gym,
Middle
is
school,
that?
yeah. High school gym. High school court's 84 feet long, 50 feet wide. Middle school's 74 foot long by 50 wide. So you still get all your threes, just a little less length, which is fine for the old guys like me who like to play basketball. But we'll have the hoops on the end, hoops on the side. We're going to swing these hoops sideways, we think, so that they can come out of the way. The ceiling will be 23 feet clear, underside of the structure for volleyball. And so the flooring system will be a synthetic type of system that will handle any food or, you know, a lower maintenance type of floor.
Yeah, for people around here, as I understand it, the surface we're talking about would be the same thing we have in our activity center at the high school. Poolastic is it's called. It's a poured floor, and I think it's held up very well there, so something I think is going to serve us
Yeah,
really well
it's good
too.
for all, you know, because this is really a multi-purpose place. It's a place for, you know, activity. It's a place, could be for fellowship, you know, you might, you could, and it's a place for many different, you'll have food in there, you'll have running in there. So yeah, it's a good surface. So we're going to dress up the walls a little bit, not too much with paint probably, and
Right.
get some more spirit in here. But we got a couple windows that are popping in to get some natural light into that gym also. You saw the 3 windows on the east. Had one window right behind those doors that go into that area.
All right, so before we wrap up here, we just want to talk a little bit about the space on the first level. We paid a lot of attention to the Unity Hall and Gymnasium, but the second goal of our building campaign was to create more flexible learning and meeting space. If you've tried to do anything around the church, you know that it's very difficult to find space to meet, and even when you do, it's not always adequate meeting space. So I want to talk a little bit about what the space down below the gymnasium and the Unity Hall will look like. Just for your context, this is the current, everything from this blue dotted line, this direction is our current downstairs. So our classrooms in the back that we use for all kinds of different functions, which really aren't really adequate for much of anything, but we use them because it's what we've got. The choir room, which is our biggest and nicest meeting space. The current reception area, and then our office space back here if you've ever been back in our offices. That's the current footprint that we have. So the new addition below the kitchen will add some additional offices for us, which we need, just to house the people we've already got, and hopefully give us a little room for expansion if it's needed. And with that, we'll pick up an additional conference room. If you've been in our current conference room, you know it's very tight quarters. It's still going to be a usable space, but this will give us a little nicer sized conference room for not only staff functions, but for all kinds of meetings. As we move over here beneath the Unity Hall and the gym, you begin to see some of the meeting spaces that we're picking up. They've all got red stars on them. And you can see they're much better sized meeting spaces. So we're picking up spaces that will hold 12, 16, 20 people when it's needed. And maybe, Dean, you could talk a little bit about how these rooms are going to be designed to look a little bit more contemporary than the meeting spaces we've got today.
Sure. Well, the essence of the lower level walkout is to bring a new pleasant entry for the visitors.
Which will be right here.
Yeah. So the receptionist will have a view of those entering. The offices will be bringing natural light into the middle of their area. There's a secure entry there where the visitor will be coming in and checking into the reception area. So it'll be more formal, designed a little friendlier entry, which is a nice, first impression for some of the visitors. The entry is also designed for your future school if it would move to this location, which is one of the goals of your master plan and the input from your community. So the school administration is designed to go where those meeting rooms are, right in that area.
Long term.
So that there's a secure entry for both the church and the school in the future, so that visitors who aren't welcome can be talked to and asked to not come in. It's a secure entry arrangement. So before the school happens, you have wonderful opportunities to put some meeting rooms in. And in the next phase, if you do the school, you can still put new meeting spaces in places to continue this mini. But at this point, the idea is to put various size meeting spaces for the various groups you have in your parish. So we got a big one there, and we got a medium one next to it, and smaller ones next to that. We're trying to bring the natural light, the daylight, the sunlight into these spaces, trying to draw it through to the other spaces. We call it borrowed light, where there's going to be light coming in that entryway, and that's going to come down. We have kind of a flexible meeting area that was more like upstairs with the soft seating, and then the meeting rooms all around there. So as we continue to develop this, we're trying to find that right size. We don't want all the meeting rooms to be the same size, because then you're wasting space or you don't have enough space. So the bigger groups can go to conference room 3.
Right.
The smaller groups could go to conference room 5. It'll
That's-
kind of be a rhythm for you.
Right. It's worth mentioning that these rooms are going to be furnished with mobile tables. We were blessed to have one of our parishioners deliver to us 50 5-foot tables on wheels, which will be perfect for these rooms, so they can be set up in a kind of a boardroom or square where people want to sit and talk across to each other, but they could also be rearranged into classroom style. So we're going to have a lot of flexibility.
You're
with
going to
the
have
way
to buy 20 more, because this plan shows 70 tables. Isn't that crazy?
Well, we may,
So
but
you get it.
we got a good
You
head
better work
start.
on that.
We got a good head start. So it'll be, there's going to be a lot of spaces for us to work with, and much better spaces than we've had in the past. I should go back and mention over here that for those who are familiar, our Catechesis of the Good Shepherd program has been offered in this little space back here, and that program is growing. It's a beautiful ministry for our church. So the expectation is that we'll use some of these classrooms back here to expand to support that ministry. And then the last piece to mention down here is the preschool. Currently, for those that aren't aware, we have a building across the street from our school that houses our preschool program. There are 2 sections of preschool there. We've been wanting for a number of years to expand that program because there's plenty of demand, and the move over here is going to do a couple of things for us. Number one, it's going to allow us to expand to 3 sections of preschool and grow that program. The other is it frees up the space at that building where it's currently housed to be used or to sell. So our preschool program, when this project is complete, will migrate into this space here, and then there's space for the director of that program and her staff to work and take care of the needs of our preschoolers here. You want to talk a little bit, Dean, here about how this sets up to the exterior of the preschool rooms?
Well, as a father of 7, I'm qualified to talk about little kids playing. And it's nice to keep them close. So the staff has confirmed that they'd like exits, doors, direct access to the outdoor play area. So those little girls and guys can be contained and keep an eye on them and keep them safe. So, there's opportunities to come down through the cubby corridor and go out and run in the grass in the field, but there might be times where maybe one of the classes wants to go into the play structure area more controlled, and then maybe another class. So those will be secure areas also, where card
we have
readers will
secure
be used.
doors right here inside the facility, right? And secure doors here.
So,
It'll also give them easy access to the gym. They just come through here and up the stairs, right?
so each one has a toilet and sinks, and we like to put windows a little higher between the rooms so the staff can help each other and see, but the kids maybe aren't staring at each other, or maybe they are.
So there's more to follow on this. Hopefully the next time we meet in a virtual town hall, we'll have a fly-through of these facilities, similar to what we showed you in the upstairs, but we want to at least give you a preview of some of the additional space we're picking up with the project. As always, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Our goal is to keep everyone as informed as we can. We appreciate your time watching us this time around, and look forward to giving you an update soon.